As much as people paint a picture that the music industry is great and everything, you work in an industry where people can be very bitter. And so I would love to be remembered as someone that existed in a world that wasn't very nice, but retained their own kindness. For me, creative control means not having a brain, just being able to dream without any buts and ifs, and being able to execute those dreams. My name is Elizabeth Sobowale. I'm the program director for MBA Africa. I am a talent manager, and I would also say I'm a creative entrepreneur. I actually always saw myself working on TV. So growing up, I always told my mom that I wanted to be a newscaster. And then at the age of 12, my parents moved me to the UK. And then just moving to the UK and realizing that there was no one that looked like me on TV made me realize that maybe my dream of journalism wasn't going to be possible. So I then switched, and I wanted to actually, instead of being on TV, like write news and write articles and stuff. And then gradually, I remember getting some careers advice in secondary school, and they told me that, it was best for me to broaden my scope of what I wanted to do. So I decided to pick English language and communications. So I have a BA in English language and communications. I've always been someone that was very keen on educating myself. So, I would always read a book. There would always be something that I was researching or I wanted to know more about. And when I started university, I was 18. I got a job at a coffee shop at the train station of my uni. So I would, have a book every day to read. And there was a man that always walked past. He never bought a coffee. He never asked me for anything, but he would always see me reading a book. And one day he stopped and said, "I don't think you want to be here." And I said, "Why?" It was because you're always reading and you don't pay attention to your customers. And then I was like, well, that's true. I don't want to be here. I'm just here because I need the money. So he goes, "Well, what do you want to do?" So I said, "I want to be a journalist." But then I was like, well, I don't think I can be a journalist anymore. So I would love to go into public relations, which was like the closest thing to journalism. And then he goes, "Oh, I own a public relations firm." So he gave me his card and he told me whatever I read, I should let him know so that he can also follow up. So I would every month send him a summary of what I was reading. And I think after like the 4th month, he asked me to come into his office in London because I was outside of London. And then I got to the office, he wasn't there. I didn't realize he had set me up for an interview. And I was meeting his business partner, who then interviewed me to become one of their interns at the public relations firm. And my first task, I will never forget, was to write a press release. Obviously, I didn't study journalism. I was just doing English language and communications because I was always reading about journalism and trying to educate myself. I knew how to write a press release. And so I did, and then I got the job, and that's how I kind of got into public relations and like events management. And then from there, I met Copy, who was my first client. I met her at one of the parties that we were throwing at the time, and then we were both 21, and she decided she wanted to be a DJ, as in, professionally outside of school. And she asked me to come on board. Actually, the person I was managing her asked me to come on board. And then 3 months later, he left, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm your manager. The major reason why MBA Africa pulled me in, why Godwin pulled me in, because I met Godwin as a young woman in the industry that was also trying to find her feet. And there was a man who was established to an extent, but was also trying to help other people become what they wanted to become. And so when I met Godwin and I saw that, I saw myself in everybody else that he was trying to help, because coming into this industry as a 21-year-old, first and foremost, I grew up half of my life in Nigeria, so there was a lot of things that I knew and didn't know about the industry, about just the continent, about the country itself. And there was a lot of things that I knew from where I was coming from, which was London. But seeing someone like Godwin provide a platform that was basically providing resources and education and opportunity to people that just had a dream to wanting to establish themselves in the industry, wanting to sing, to manage, to do something in music. That's what pulled me into Godwin. So for me, I always tell people, like, it's great being a creative and having dreams, but the most important part of that dream is having the resources to execute them. I think one of the biggest things that I would say I'm proud of actually came from a bit of a disappointment. We went to Cannes, we were booked to DJ for Ciroc in Cannes when Cannes Film Festival was going on, and someone invited us to a party on a yacht. And obviously, we're two young girls, we looked presentable, and we're basically told that we needed to get off the yacht because there was nobody like us on there. So we're the only two black people on there. Two very unassuming, calm, we're not threatening, black female. And they told us that we needed to leave because there was nobody like us. They wanted to film and they didn't want people like us in the video. And I remember the two of us walking off that yacht in shame and realizing that we needed to create something for us. And so we left that yacht thinking we had to go and do Cactus on the Roof. And Cactus on the Roof was a party, a pop-up party that we started in London that basically brought people together to appreciate our own music, which was Afrobeats. Back then in London, we struggled to get shows in the UK. We struggled for her to perform at the top clubs in the UK. So we took that, and then we took the experience in Cannes and decided to start Cactus on the Roof. So that's basically I would say one of my biggest, for me, achievements, because it came from wanted to create a platform for us, by us, to appreciate us. I'm a bit of a dreamer, so everyone has dreams, but I'm a dreamer in terms of I have a lot of dreams, and I take my dreams very spirituality and God is before anything else in my life, that comes first. So I always see my dreams as my most strongest form of communication with God. Then when I started to look at everything I was doing, I realized that my job was to go into a place and transform it. Yeah, you're like a salesperson. I always say managers are salespeople. You have to sell your artists. You have to make me believe that they're worth my investment, my time, my attention, my social currency, everything. You have to make me believe that, and so you have to sell your talent. The industry is not like an abstract thing, right? The industry is made up of people. So there's certain skills and morals and things that you will have to hold that will connect with other people, that will bring you opportunities. So if you're a great person at time management, if you're respectful, if you're polite, you connect with people that are looking for other people like that to do business with. I think when I started, it was just the manager does everything. And now as a manager, you're able to be it's a business and I have partners. And so, you're not necessarily doing everything, but I think because the industry has grown so much and we've, opportunities are there and doors have kind of been flung open, now the responsibility is a bit more heavier. Not necessarily that you're playing so many different roles, but your job is even more important now because there's so many other people involved. So you have to really be the net and the glue that brings everyone together. The whole journey into kind of managing Adekunle Gold started with me deciding to leave from working with copy. And I left because I wanted to go back and do my master's. So I did that. I went back, did my master's, and then one of my really, really great friends, Nee, who was managing AG at the time, she kept saying to me, you need to manage AG, you need to manage AG. And I would be no, I don't have time. I don't want to work with artists. I don't want to work with musicians. I actually, at one point, said I was done with music. I was I'm done. It's stressful, it's terrible, it has no structure, I didn't want to be a part of this. And I think it took a whole year, and around March 2022, I had just finished my exams, and she literally said to me, you don't have a choice anymore. I'm not negotiating with you, you're going to manage him whether you like it or not. And I was whatever. And then she set me up on a date with her. I thought I was going out with her. She set us up on we went to a gallery, and then AG was there. And so we were forced to have to talk and kind of find a middle ground between, are you going to manage him? Is she going to be your manager? And then the next day he gave me a call and asked me to be his manager. And That's literally how it happened. Being a program director basically really means like I get to like work as part of the team to develop what people are going to learn. So I see that as like I'm out here doing my job day to day, gaining new experiences. I'm on the pulse of what's happening, but then I'm also able to take that back to MBA to make sure that whatever it is that we are teaching everybody else and they're learning is actually current and it's what's happening right now. And Godwin has done a fantastic job at just like piecing the basics together and piecing like what underlines the actual program together. And so we work with other people. So there's Dr. Carlos, who's like the professor of music for New York University. Funny enough, he actually he was actually a professor at SOAS where I did my master's, but he left before I started. So when I was doing my master's, I asked him to oversee my thesis. So he was a big part of that as well. So like MBA and just that ecosystem and what it provided me is literally like something that I can never buy anywhere else. The most challenging part of MBA, I would say, not just of my role, I think MBA in general, the most challenging part is explaining to people that music education is something that everybody needs to pay attention to. And we need to build a structure. And the structure can only start with educating people. Because we cannot cry and say, oh, you know, they're taking our music away, the artists are signing to international labels, we have no ownership. But do people really understand what ownership is in the first place? And people understand that actually ownership is not always, to give ownership of your music away is not always a bad thing. And there's so many different ways in which you can retain ownership whilst giving ownership away. So it's like, we need to educate people. So that's like the start. Like if we don't have education, this industry is just not sustainable. So I think it's explaining to people that we need to go back to square one, which is education. With every single one of us that's sitting here, everyone starts their lives with education. From when you're born, your parents are teaching you, this is how you speak, this is how you do this is how you talk, and then you go to school. So why is it that with music and with the industry, we don't feel like we need education? We feel like it's just go into it and do whatever you want now. I'm not gonna tell anybody what skills they need to develop. I'm gonna tell them what spirit they need to have, which is be resilient. Like if you're not resilient, this industry will beat you down with every step that you take. You get a no. You get 50 no's before you get 1 yeses. So I think for me, resilience is like the most important thing that you need to have as an artist, as an exec. It's like no matter what happens, you're gonna keep going because you have that dream. My personal time, I spend a lot of my personal time reading, like a lot of reading. I read a lot, but also I, spend time with friends and family. And actually I think two most important people in my life right now, my niece and my nephew, like they're so amazing. And my nephew in particular, he's autistic, but he's so brilliant that, he can text me a random word today, like, oh, auntie, do you know the meaning of this? And I'll go away and go and research it. And that for me is like my own escape from like stress, because I don't know what he's gonna ask me tomorrow, and I don't know what I have to explain to him. And then outside of that, I've decided that like I'm gonna do certain things that I don't know how to do. So there's a few things that I don't know how to do, which is very embarrassing. I don't know how to swim, I don't know how to play tennis, and I don't know how to ride a bike. So this year, I have 3 things that I have to conquer, and those 3 things are learning how to swim, playing tennis, and riding a bike. I work in an industry that sometimes can be very callous and mean and horrible. And, as much as people paint a picture that the music industry is great and everything, you work in an industry where people can be very bitter and very petty and very horrible. And so I would love to be remembered as someone that existed in either this industry or in a world that wasn't very nice, but retained their own kindness. To me, creative control means being able to dream without any boundaries. When I say that, I mean like when people dream, there's always a but. I'll use Pinky and the brain as an example. Pinky will dream and brain will be like, but this. So for me, creative control means not having a brain, just being able to dream without any buts and ifs, and being able to execute those dreams. It means like having resources, education, having support system, the people around you. And so for me, that's what creative control means, because that's what it really means to control your creative mind. It means that you control what you dream and you control what you execute. Hi everyone, I'm Elizabeth Sobowale. I am a creative entrepreneur, a talent manager, and program director for MBA Africa. And you're watching Creative Control with Days and Nights.